Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. We are the Soul Producers. I'm Griffin Gaming RPG. Welcome back for another monthly show that we dedicate to our supporters, our donors, our subscribers, and we also send out to you, our Star Citizen viewers, Soul Citizen viewers, Star Citizen viewers. Um, and I'm joined today with my fellow co-producers, the one and the only Fast Cart FC and Serious Fun. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. It's time to restart. No, I'm kidding. We're doing all right.
That's good.
Greetings and salutations. Doing very well. Happy to be here. Excited to talk to
All right.
supporters and backers of the Soul Citizens, as well as our the folks that follow us. So good stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And I hope everyone had a happy Halloween, happy Day of the Bar, happy anything that you celebrate during the holiday just now.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, today, our title for our show is Inside CIG Studios Waste or Haste. This topic came to mind for me after we attended CitizenCon in Manchester, UK. Myself and Serious Fun made the trip this year. Last year, you guys may remember that Fast Cart went, I went, Serious Fun went, and we had three other members of the Soul team that went. This year, it was Serious Fun, Sub Vigio, Yo-Yo Meg, and Captain Jones, who went. Fast Cart was unable to go this year, but he manned the helm here in the States and did a live stream for the final session. But when we came back, Serious Fun and I had the opportunity, unexpected opportunity, to tour CIG Studios. And Fast Cart and I have both previously gone to studios before. Fast Cart, what years did you go and which studios did you get a chance to go to?
I did LA and Austin, 2016 and 2017 for Austin. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you did it in the year we were there for VerseCon. You went.
No, it was Pack South.
Oh, for PAX South. Okay, PAX South.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right, awesome. Yeah, I got to visit. Mm, boy, I got to remember myself. I went the year when VerseCon happened, if I'm remembering correctly. Weirdly enough, it
In
was a fluke.
2017.
Yeah, it was a fluke. I stopped by to drop off some stuff, and I ran into Tyler, and he was like, "Oh, you want a tour?" I'm like, yeah." And so, yeah, unexpectedly, um,
Who's gonna say no to that?
yeah, and it was interesting because it was one of those, there are two types of tours when you go to CIG Studios. There's the tours where the place is closed and nobody's working, which is like when we went to LA last year, we had something similar like that happen. Give me 1 second, guys. Hold on 1 second. Did that come through the mic? I hope it didn't.
No.
No.
Okay, good. Um, and so,
And the LA tour was Abdi and Yo Yo Meg got to do in LA.
that's right.
Mm.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and I forgot to mention Abdi last year. Abdi went last year, and Gomab went last year with us. But when I went while they were working, so which was a different type of tour, because folks are,
Right.
it's an impromptu thing, and folks are working. And so it was interesting to see the difference between when the place is working and you actually get to see in real time what's going on. And I'm not referring to any behind the scenes secrets. I'm just talking about watching the workspace, the life of what happens in that workspace versus when you go to the studio and it's closed. So we're going to watch a video that was done by Farrister. And shout out to Farrister. In fact, you can check the link that'll be in our comments here if you guys want to watch the video again. He does a really nice overview of what it was like to see the studio. And he talks about CitizenCon. It's a very short video. It's only just about 4 minutes long. But we're going to take a look at that. Then we're going to share with you our experience of what we felt. Because I have to say this, Serious Fun, I actually went to the studio looking to see if the rumors were true. you know,
Mm.
I mean, a lot of people who were just excited
Mm.
and whatnot, but I actually went in saying, I'm going to take a look around here and try and be as objective as possible and see, how do I feel about how backer money is being spent at the studio? And then we'll come back and we'll do some more talking about that in a little bit. So let's check out Farrister's video first, and then we'll chat.
Immediately following CitizenCon 2954, the kind folks over at CIG extended an invitation to tour their offices in Manchester, in the UK, to peek behind the scenes and see where the magic happens. I'm Farrister, and ordinarily I enjoy visiting places in-game in Star Citizen, so to see some of those places brought to life in the studios was pretty special. This felt like so much more than just your 9-to-5 workplace, as somewhere that had invested careful thought, planning, and collaboration with other companies to deliver a place that would be a hothouse of inspiration to all of those involved in building something truly wonderful: Star Citizen and Squadron 42. The main floors each ran a theme, whether that be Grimhex, Asiedo Station, or the City in the Clouds up top featuring the iconic Horizon Voyager bar. There were ship models, murals, decorations, all in keeping with the Star Citizen theme. The team granted entry to the only constant that many of us would recognise from tuning into various content updates, the frequency and quality of which would be the envy of many a game developer. And understandably, to respect the privacy of the work and workers behind this great game, there's as much that can't be shown. Areas like the performance capture studio, the magic technology behind making Star Citizen Squadron 42 as realistic as possible, features like the bright coloured doors transplanted from the original Wilmslow office, or the workstations where a whole team of people bring the vision to life. No doubt there will be those who would criticise the studios as extravagant, but it's important to remember, Star Citizen and Squadron 42 aren't supposed to be yet another formulaic game to consume. They're supposed to be breaking the mould, about doing something far greater, and the decor certainly seems to encourage that. All in all, the studios were impressive and all focused around giving us, as players, the best possible game. But the studios weren't the most impressive thing on display. The tour happened immediately after a full CitizenCon weekend, a jam-packed, energy-filled event, the culmination of weeks, months of work for many of the people behind it all. Personally, I was exhausted, and all I had to do was turn up and enjoy the show, so I can only imagine how tired all of our hosts must have been after many a late night in preparation. But it didn't show. What shone through was a group of very passionate people, proud to show their workplace, eager to share the part they played in the panels of CitizenCon in realising the vision of Star Citizen or Squadron 42, aspiring to create a masterpiece. Far from coming across as tired after a long weekend, these people were inspiring with their friendliness, their infectious creativity, and I'm sure Chris Roberts knows this, but they are a credit to Cloud Imperium Games. That sort of attitude was embodied by Jared, our own Disco Lando, who was heading up the tour, sharing all manner of facts and trivia whilst navigating up and down stairwells, pacing the significant floor plan of the studios, all whilst harbouring a very genuine, and I can only imagine painful injury sustained on the show floor earlier. Some say the show must go on, and Jared absolutely wanted to make sure it did. These people are dedicated to making the best damned space sim ever, and whilst there's always room for constructive and healthy criticism, it's also fair to be grateful to all the passionate folks who are moving this project forward, bit by bit, patch after patch. Thank you to Jared and all of the other hosts who welcomed us into their workplace on a Sunday evening for letting us share some of what we saw with you, and of course, as always, thank you for watching.
Okay, really great shout out to Farrister for pulling off such a great video. Um,
Absolutely.
let me go to well, let me go to Fast Card first before two of us talk. Fast Card, now that you kind of got to see a little bit more behind the scenes, what are your thoughts about what you're seeing?
Yeah, I'm just something that I took note of watching it just now is like those trees inside the building look very real. They look pretty real. I like the cherry blossoms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they had to put if they're fake, they got to put each of those leaves on one by one. That's time intensive and labor intensive. If they're real, I don't know how you got to take care of them. So I don't know which one is which.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or how close they are to the windows or something like that. So I thought that would look cool. I'm wondering how many square feet per floor it has. I don't know if y'all can well y'all something people may not realize is that when people go on these tours they do have to sign an NDA. So there's some things you can talk about, some things you can't. I'm guessing stuff that you can take videos of you can talk about, but yeah,
Okay. Oh,
We
you're
got a
limited.
number on
sorry. Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
feet per floor, but the there's a design philosophy around where CIG has determined to locate themselves in Manchester. Um, they're in a place called Manchester Goods Yard, and that's 350,000 square feet of workplace.
Mm,
But the important thing about it is that its design philosophy is to actually craft both a new neighborhood in Manchester as well as a new digital hub workplace, right? And Cloud Imperium is at the center of that, along with organizations like Booking.com and others, right? And so, having been part of something like this, the creation of a new neighborhood space in Baltimore, a place called Stadium Place, um, it's important to create new spaces that have these modern sensibilities and an awareness of urban design, right? So flexible workspaces, walkable, bikeable, lots of mix of work and living. And as you approach Cloud Imperium and the Manchester Goods Yard location, you can see the transformation of what I would call old Manchester into some of this new
Mm-hmm.
emergent sensibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a statement of purpose, in my view, that CIG has chosen to put themselves in the middle of something like that. I think there are tax breaks and other benefits as well, but there's a lifestyle and a cultural setting of their stall in terms of saying to themselves, their work, the staff, employees, affiliates, this is where we want to be. This is the type of environment we want to be in every day.
Yeah, that's a good point. One of the reasons why we called this show Waste or Haste, and we give some background history to this. Some of you may remember that when CIG announced that they were doing this studio, building a headquarters, there were people who questioned it, particularly the timing. It was actually during COVID when this got started. And as always, each year, people are concerned about the backer money and whether or not there's funding to continue development. And there were people who felt that maybe it was a bit ambitious. But what we want to do today is kind of help dispel and maybe even answer some questions for people who maybe just haven't had an opportunity to either see a video like this or get a tour of the studio. I want to say unequivocally, when we left, I asked Captain Sirius a direct question, which was, did you see any waste here? And we both said no.
mm.
In fact,
No.
we both commented that we've seen places that are way more elaborate than CIG's studios. Now, I know that there have been people, even former quote unquote employees, who stated that they felt that there was a certain amount of overindulgence or questioning how monies were spent here. So what we want to do is go through some areas here that are in the video. I want to go back to something that Fastcard said about the cherry blossoms. And let me say this to you, Fastcard. That is not how cherry blossom trees are put into a corporate headquarters. Um, there are companies that have hundreds of cherry blossom fake trees, and you can order them and you can find them and have them shipped to you. That level of manual detail and labor would not have to be done in a unique way for in a studio like this. It would be no
Okay,
different than getting props for a film or anything else like that. You just find something that looks close to what you want, have it manicured and put up. It is a fake tree. It is not a real tree. That would be a lot
right.
of maintenance with cleaning up leaves and stuff all the time. But the
Mhm.
recreation of Orson, which you highlighted earlier, is definitely the influence. Now, let me cover some things in serious fun. You've backed me up and fill in the gaps where I might miss things. One of the first misconceptions is that whenever we see CIG Studios from the outside, there's an assumption that that building is CIG Studios. It is not.
Right.
CIG leases 3 floors in that building out of like maybe what, 8 or 9 floors, maybe something like that. Um,
Correct.
and so, as you mentioned, Booking.com is in that building. There are other companies that are in there. So they only have 3 of the floors out of the 9, maybe 10 floors that are in the building. Um,
Indeed, the
mhm.
stuff that you see in the Farrister video, like the only constant, aren't even in that building.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to
Oh,
talk
They're
really?
about.
frequent.
That was the other thing I
Okay.
was going to talk about. This is, and I mentioned this beforehand. If you guys get a chance to watch Ray's Guide, he has a great video the day before CitizenCon, where he actually walks to the studio. He was hoping to be able to get a tour, but he's in architecture and he talks about the design of the building. But he also talks about that when companies come into buildings like this, they lease space out of them. Okay, and he talks about the process of what happens when you lease corporate space. It's a very good video that you should take a look at because I think it will dispel many of the concerns that people have about, well, where is our money going? One of the things that they mentioned, well, let's go back to something Serious Fun just said. There's floors 7, 8, and 9, right? Which is the studio. We can talk about this because this is just nothing unusual. And to your point, Fast Card, there were areas that we could show and there were areas that we could not show. They would tell us when we could take out
Right.
our cameras and times when we had to make sure all cameras were put away. There was
Because
also,
cause,
And,
Mhm.
and just really quick, in the areas that we can't show, there were there were still stories Jared told us that we can talk about.
Right.
So we'll
So,
do a little bit of that here.
there's
Because
the,
I'm not
Mhm.
gonna lie. When I saw Serious Fun new profile on Twitter, I'm like, Serious Fun, you might have to take that down, man. I don't know if you can show
Yeah.
that.
No, they whatever we were able to record, we were able to use publicly, so no problems there. So here's the deal. Main studio where everybody works. Then there is the performance capture studio. And sometimes people say mocap, but they treat it as performance capture. And they distinguish the difference in the fact that it's performance. They're recording everything about bodies and movement and all that other stuff. We did get an opportunity to go there, which is not in the main building that you would think. It's actually, as Serious Fun mentioned, this was a studio development technical tech area. So there's actually a studio that's there that we go to where that is, and then we went to where the only constant was, which is in another building, a completely different area where we went to for that. And as always, for those of you who've ever been on any type of television or movie sets, when you go in, you always see the perspective that everything is much smaller than it looks. The only constant is, I won't give any descriptions about it, but when you go in, you're like, oh, okay. It's like any other, if you've ever been to a TV show or anything like that, and you see a set. It's like, and it's done
Mm.
very well, very, very nicely. And they asked us to preserve the integrity of the mystique of what that looked like. So you won't see anybody panning 360 degrees or anything like that around. It's very, very nice set that we went to.
Just
Um,
saying that it's not in front of a live studio audience.
no, no, no. That is definitely not the case. Let's take a look at some of the pictures here. These are some of the images that we took. This was Cap, Sirius, and I when we were outside before we went in. And again, if I had to look for the areas where there was any extravagance, I would say, would someone consider that neon sign extravagant? Not in the what do you think, Serious Fun? In the context of of what was there?
I thought it was cool and nice and inspiring, but I don't think it was extravagant.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
I've worked in environments where, people are buying Degas and saisons
Right.
with the money of backers and supporters. That's extravagant. This is like, hey, let's have a great environment for
Yeah,
folks to work in because we're competing for the best devs,
yeah.
and the best devs can go anywhere they want. So
Right.
let's have a nice environment.
Right. It's
That's all I
decorative
saw.
at the and themed and
Yeah.
decorative, done tastefully. And there are actually some areas in the studio where you can see where they actually were very consistent about how they were spending money, how they were able to create the environment and not make it look really good, but you could tell, oh, this is all they did was this, but it looks really, really nice. This was Geo and Serious Fun. They were taking a photo there. This was one of the first stops that we got to do. This floor on this floor was like the Grim Hex floor where we were at this particular point. Okay. Let's see. Change this out here. Let's go there. This was the point of big controversy. The barista bar, right?
Right. Yeah.
The big deal about that. And for those of you who don't know, there were people who questioned the idea of whether our money was being wasted because there was a barista working at the headquarters there, providing coffees and lattes and hot chocolates and drinks to people who were working. And Sirius, I'll give you the speech on this. Is how this was explained to us when Disco talked about the economy of doing something like this.
Yeah, he clearly Disco Lando was aware of the criticism, right? And what they argue is, do you want devs spending time, energy, figuring out the coffee, right? This is something that they get so that they can, you know, be focused for work, or do you want to create an environment where that's easy to get in a way that's enjoyable to get, right? And for me, I he didn't need to say all that for me to understand that, and I've used this image that you have up now to just invite people who are very upset to sit down. Let me buy them a drink. In fact, let me buy them a drink at the Voyager bar, right? Let me buy you a drink because this is the type of stuff when you're answering the question, what kind of environment do I want that's going to be relatively decent and nice for devs to come to. Again, when good devs can go anywhere they want to go, right? In this environment, what kind of environment do I want to create that's competitive and allows them to do that? Something like this is isn't for me the type of thing that you would definitely want to do to attract the talent that we want to move the experience forward.
And can I mention back to the barista bar thing? How many TV shows and movies have we seen where people are spending 2, 3, 5 minutes making coffee, but here you just have someone make it for you, right?
I hate to tell you this. It's actually longer than that.
It's long.
If you're a developer and you're taking a break, you're going to come here. Not only are you just going to come make your coffee, you have to get the ingredients, prepare, clean up the machine, grind, all these things that would normally have to take place for somebody to do. And you've got 1,000 people working at a facility,
Right.
right? And so having someone behind there who does this and knows what they're doing, or you can come up and put your order and leave and go back to work and come back and pick it up or whatever, exponentially makes the developers be able to grab their coffee and go back and sit at their desk and start working, right? You don't have things such as damage to equipment, right? Or misuse of equipment or all these other things that have to take place when you've invested a decent amount of money for a machine that provides a variety of soft drinks and not soft drinks, but refreshment for the people who
Right.
work there.
Right.
So the economy side of it actually makes sense, right? It sounds lavish, but it's not in reality. It's actually efficient when it comes to time management, right, for the people who work there. So, and it's
It
not.
only fails to make sense if you want to punish devs. If you want to see devs suffer,
Yeah, yeah,
that's where it doesn't make sense.
yeah.
If your mindset of how this was supposed to work was, sort of like a sweatshop,
Hmm.
right? But somehow you still get the best people,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Then this doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, it makes perfect sense.
Exactly. So this is the only constant. This was serious fun. Uh, Seriously pointing at some things that were back there in the background. It was an unexpected and wonderful surprise to, it's one thing to see it, and it's another thing when they say you guys can go on the set and take pictures and look around and have fun, and you could tell people were excited, but everybody was a little nervous about should I touch this, should I do this, or whatever,
Yeah, you don't want to be that person who
yeah,
breaks Disco Lando's toys.
exactly. And I saw everyone in our group was respectful. Nobody was grabbing things or anything like that. People kept a safe distance from things, and I think people felt like, wow, this is very cool, and
Now, how many people were in your group?
about 30, I want to say,
30.
roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
about 30. And there was a variety of people who were in the group, from regular backers to content creators. There's a variety of people. I think it was just kind of a lot of randomization of people that were invited to come.
Any any gaming journalists? I haven't heard from them.
Any
Regarding
what?
the tour.
No,
Any gaming journalists?
No. Well, I don't know.
no.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
not that I recognize.
that I would know. I don't really know. It was a fluke that we were able to for Sirius to even come because well, anyway, I was glad he was able to come. Because I
No, and
didn't.
I
I
was
wanted to.
thankful. It was very lucky.
It, wa-
Griff is underplaying it,
well,
but
Oh,
Griff
don't
texted
get
me.
into.
I was in. No,
Go
I'm
ahead.
telling him. I'm telling him because the Addison Lounge quickly ASAP.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit. Hang on,
Yeah, you're cutting
hang on.
out.
Your
Oh,
audio's cutting out a little bit.
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
said
yeah.
So you said I'm going to tell him, and then we didn't hear you after that.
Oh, so I was saying that Griff said come to the Addison Lounge, and I thought that Griff was hurt or something. So I ran over there to see if he was okay, and he's like, "Nah, I'm debating whether I'm going to take somebody else or take you on this tour, right? That he got." And I was like, "Well, listen, I want to make sure you keep stuff right." So, and he said, "No, I think we'll be able to do a show like this and talk about it with our community if you were able to see it." So I'm just thankful. I wanted to say thank you.
Mhm.
Just thankful that I had an opportunity to see the space. Um, it was a very interesting experience in terms of how CIG obviously needs to have people do this thing the right way, and the stuff that you need to sign and the ways in which you need to move and how they essentially were not playing games in terms of giving people access. It was very much like that feeling of in Andor, Star Wars Andor, where they say on program. We had to be on program, bruh.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and because there's some material IP and secrets that you're walking past and near,
Mhm.
right? And they needed to make sure that when they said phones can be out, they were out, and then when phones couldn't be out, they weren't out. And some of it was a little bit harsh, but I get it,
Mhm. Yep.
right? Because this is also a business. They're trying to roll out things in a certain order, and they couldn't afford any knuckleheadedness. And I'll be frank, even with all of that, there were still some people who were kind of slow on the uptake in terms of putting their phones away.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
And that's why they tell us over and over again. And it wasn't just Disco Lando who was walking us through. He had a cadre of
Wow.
volunteers
Yeah.
to make sure that you did this thing in the right way and had the right experience, but didn't harm. They couldn't. They were not going to allow any material harm to
Yeah.
the enterprise, and I
Yeah.
respected that.
Yeah. There were at least 6 to 8 volunteers that were with the group who were very much paying attention. And let me say this, because I want to say this because Cap Serious knows I wasn't feeling well when we went. It had been a long day. And I can't tell you how many times during the tour someone would come over to me and ask me, "Am I okay? Are you feeling all right? Do you need to sit down?" They were very conscious. It wasn't just them being authoritative and eyeballing us for security reasons. They were also making sure that we were enjoying ourselves. And I have to
That's
give
right.
a true shout out to them for that, because after a certain point I always wanted to tell them, guys, I'm okay, but they literally would come over and whisper in my ear and say, do you want to sit down? Or you do? No, I'm okay. I'm just tired. It's been a long day. Um, so it was a really, really, really great experience. Now we'll
Yeah,
talk about.
I,
Mhm. Go ahead.
I cannot imagine the liability that would happen if someone killed over during a CIG tour and the amount of
Well,
publicity that would happen. So yeah, but I,
yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
Something you said about the volunteers, you said just 7 or 8. In the past, in 2016, 2017, it was like 1 or 2. Like there was like Disco Lando and that was it
Mhm.
most of the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
so they seem like they've upped their game.
Yeah. Well, again, the company has grown. That's the
Hmm.
issue. They are in light of the studios that I've been to previously. When I see this one, you get an idea of this is what they're trying to do. I mean, this is the epitome of what developing this company has become. Now, some of the things I want to talk about that are in this video, such as the models, these were things that were
Mm.
done by JDRF or JRDF. They're the ones who did this. They collaborated with them, did a great job on this stuff. Is there any overabundance of stuff? No, I think there's about maybe 6 models total, if I'm remembering correctly, that we saw. You saw the mannequins there. There were like 4 mannequins there. There was nothing there. I mean, the stuff was 3D printed. I didn't see anything that represented this is just so over the top, or oh my God, I can't believe they're spending money on this type of thing. I saw a
And
corporate gaming studio. I've seen several studios like this. I've visited two before. You guys have seen how Bethesda's laid out, a lot of these other studios. To Serious Fun's point, this place is designed for the future. It's designed to bring in good talent. It's designed to inspire the people who work there. And I hope that more people get an opportunity to go there so that they'll also be able to see, hey, we were a part of helping build this company, literally, right? And
Yeah,
also feel,
the way that people talk about CIG, I was expecting personal elevators for people to have personal elevators to descend into their personal F8 simulator station, you know, while people were handing them grapes, and it was just nice.
yeah,
That's all it was nice, and
hmm
it was in the context, the art and cultural context of Star Citizen, which was
yeah,
also nice,
yes,
right?
and
yes.
So
I
it was
be-
just nice.
There
and,
were,
and
go
I
ahead.
believe this is where the Saber Raven model that was in 2017. I want to say.
Nope, we did not see it. We did not see
You
it.
didn't see it there.
I think
Okay,
that's in
and
storage somewhere.
Yeah, we did not
I
see
think
that.
they said they're bringing the F7 Hornet model over to one place. I'm not sure if they're gonna be here or the other place though.
I don't know. I mean, that model's huge. I mean, I don't know what they're
That
going to do
model
with
is
that.
huge. Yeah, they
But
probably don't have room for it.
yeah,
Okay.
but I will say this about the studio too. As I mentioned, there were things that you could tell were donated. Mr. Hasgaha, for example, had donated some photos. They were, and if they were beautiful, we've seen Hasgaha's work, right? I mean, it's beautiful stuff. But he probably had donated that to them, and they've taken it and put it up on the walls. So there were the audio doors that they had in their audio rooms from their Winslow studio. When we went to that area, that one of the first places they took us was they talked about they wanted us to know the economy of and the thought behind is developing the place. So when we went to the audio rooms, they had taken the doors from the old studio and brought them to the new studio. And they said instead of wasting money buying brand new doors, they made sure that when they designed it, they could use those doors from the other studio. So I think that there was an aspect of accountability in this tour as well that they wanted us to see that we were being very thoughtful with how backer money is being spent, and also saying here we also want you guys to see where that money went, right? And for
Yeah,
me,
one thing I'll just add. Sorry,
sure.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was gonna say for me, I just didn't, and that's the reason why I wanted Serious Fun to be here because if I was the only person saying this, it'd be like, well, Griff's he's the white knight here, and nobody else is. I wanted to have other opinions, from someone else who's corporate who could tell you, did they see any waste here? And to me, I just didn't see it.
Yeah, no. The one thing I'll say is, there are areas that we can describe that we weren't able to take pictures of, right? So there was like a developer area
Hmm.
and an office area of leaders, and the way that people talk about the project, the way that people talk about Chris Roberts, you'd imagine that his office was, on the top floor somewhere, with a big mini boardroom desk and luxurious chairs and everything. Chris Roberts' office is actually on the floor where the development happens, and it
Hmm.
Mhm.
looks actually like any other office. The
Hmm.
difference between his office and anyone else's office is that he has a main door and he has a side door.
Hmm.
And the side door to the office goes to Richard Tyler's office.
Right.
So that
Right.
he can just walk into Richard Tyler's office and say whatever it is he has to say
Oh, he got it
about the
like
current
that. No, I'm
state of
kidding.
development,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there wasn't anything extravagant about the screens or the furniture or anything. It looked like another office in that space,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I think there's something intentional about having your office as the CEO on the floor where the development is happening,
Right.
right? You're making a statement about that, like, "Hey, I'm here to be about the work the way that you're about the work."
Mhm.
And I thought that that was instructive as well.
The other thing too is that these were the work areas were replications of other work areas. So there wasn't like some people had like 50-inch monitors and someone else had a 27 and blah blah blah. Blah. The workstations were all the same. And when you went
Yeah,
throughout the studio, you saw that. In fact, they said, "Listen, everything's the same. All you're going to do is see is repeats of everything. So we're just going to take you." But you would walk through other areas, and it was a typical developer workstation. Now, I don't know, were the monitors 27s maybe that they were working on? I don't even think they were
maybe.
32s, were they? maybe, but
somewhere one of the two.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
one
was
of the
it.
two.
But everything was uniform. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like you saw, why has this person got this elaborate computer? Everything was the same, and it makes sense for developing that the computers all be the same. But I'm just saying, there again, there wasn't anything. This area that you're looking at right now is a part of the communal area outside. They have these areas where the developers can just come and talk, drink coffee together, but there's nothing over the top in those areas at all. The Voyager bar may look big
No,
here. It's not as big as it looks. It really is. It's
Mhm.
not as big as it
it,
looks.
it isn't as big as it looks.
Hmm.
What was interesting about the communal areas was that Jared, on the Grim Hex floor, made it clear that those times where a build or a patch is compiling,
Hmm.
people are just sitting around waiting for 25 or 30 minutes.
Yep.
They can come over here and spend some time, get something to drink,
Hmm.
hang out for a little bit, because what else you gonna do while you're waiting for the build to compile,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you go back to your station and you see what's what. I thought that was entirely reasonable.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not sure what kind of work environments people are used to. But this is, for me, it was far from extravagant. It was just appropriately nice,
Hmm.
right? I don't want EIG devs to live in a dungeon, and I don't expect people to be getting personalized massages. It
Hmm.
was very reasonably in the middle of that, and I was very comfortable as someone who is has spent a lot of money on this project. Um, I was very comfortable with what I was seeing with regard to the spend and the investment.
Yeah.
So, quick question. In LA, they had a backer wall. So you walk into to the front door, and to your left, or I don't want to say to your left, you see a wall dedicated to the early backers.
Hmm.
Do you think they have room for like a memorial wall in the studio that you went to?
I mean, there's a huge.
For,
We didn't see all the space. We,
hmm
we we went to certain locations and spaces that we saw. We saw the spaces that we would definitely be interested in seeing. So I'm sure that there are other areas. There are other conference rooms, things like that that we didn't see. Some areas were they were darkened because the lights were off. They said, well, that's the conference room, or that's this, that, and the other. Um, but it's a fairly large space. And is there room for expansion? I think CIG ultimately wants to have 1,500 people on their staffing.
hmm
They're like just under 1,200, or around 1,200 now. So I'm sure there's room for growth and expansion for them and for something like that possibly. But obviously, that's not a priority. There's still, I think
hmm
my understanding is they are still doing some work there still. They're still working on things in that, in that structure, in that building. I don't know that they're at 100% completion yet. I think we
I
saw
From
remember.
what from what I saw, Fast Card, yeah, there would be room to do a lot of different things, right?
Hmm.
Not only a backer or memorial wall, but to a certain extent, a lot of different things that CIG might want to do. To Griff's point, they are not finished with their growth model,
Hmm.
right? So, but even in the front, there's sort of a vestibule, and then there's sort of a lobby.
Yeah.
Um, we saw the lobby, but we weren't in it. There was like a Van
Hmm.
Duel, a life-size Van Duel in that space that we could see, but
Hmm.
we didn't go in that space, right? So um, we went to a lot of different spaces, but we didn't go to every space.
Hmm.
Um, and what we saw, there was still a lot of things happening. At Griff's point, I think we did for the most part see the things that we would want to see in order to understand what day-to-day work and life is at Cloud Imperium for regular people. I think we did see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a community, we love to speculate. I remember when during ISC, they were still in the middle of construction of the studio, and Jared was outside, and you could see the Booking.com
Hmm.
logo, and some of us were like, "Oh, maybe they're gonna be a collaboration at CitizenCon because you can get a certain amount of money off if you go to Booking.com." So it turned out that wasn't the case, as far as I know. But it was amusing that they just happened to share the same building.
Yeah.
Yep,
Definitely.
that's that same vestibule that we were in. It's just a shared space.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's our general overview about CIG Studios. We'll talk about that. We are going to cover another quick subject that I want to share. I'm actually started working on a post. Hopefully, I'll get it out this week to CIG. So I'm not sure if they'll see this video, but um, and it's still along the subject of waste and haste in relation to CitizenCon itself. Uh, this year was a great year. Last year was definitely different than this year. Um, I don't know about you guys' assessment and serious fun. Maybe because Fastcard didn't make it this year, you can give your 2 cents on this as well. Both years were exciting. I felt like last year had a different type of excitement though, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we had not been together as a community in 3 years. So there was a lot of anticipation, a lot of looking forward to rekindling the fire all over again. I don't know, FC, did you kind of feel that way last year when we went?
Yes, and I think this year, the first day hit different than than the 2 day event from last year. A lot of people thought that the first day of this year was slower than last year, and I kind of agree because they talk about the social, the org stuff,
Hmm.
the Genesis stuff was exciting, but then it kind of went not downhill, but
Hmm.
less excitement. They lost steam,
Yeah.
and as the day went on, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. But the second day picked up. They went. They they stay. I want to say they stay consistent with regard to hype and how people and keep people engaged. But yeah, I think the first day could kind of hit different in
Okay.
my opinion.
Okay. Serious, what about you? What'd you think?
I mean, from a content standpoint, I felt like the fact that Genesis is a sort of derives from Star Engine.
Hmm.
Well, we experienced Star Engine in a really robust, long video,
Hmm.
and I felt like they could have hit day one. They could have started day one a little stronger had they had a sort of overall video of what Genesis is,
Hmm.
right? And then dropped into the dev segments, right?
Mm.
But they started with the dev segments, and the devs are not entertainers, right? The devs are not performers. The devs are not marketers, right?
Hmm.
And so I think there was an opportunity missed to start the day one a little stronger with an overall video that was really workshopped for entertainment and excitement purposes, and then to have the devs unpack some of that, right? So I thought that that was a missed opportunity. I think the day finished strong, obviously, with Squadron 42. I think the breath was taken out of the community a little bit with 2026,
Mm.
right? Um, but then I think to Fastcard's point, day two was really, really strong on the base building and what players are going to actually be able to do, what this project is, right? In terms of 1.0 and where we're going. In terms of the actual experience on site,
Hmm.
that's different than like the program content, but the actual
Hmm.
experience on site, and CIG will have, I'm sure, will have heard this already. Um, but I'm not sure that there was material value in the premium ticketing this
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
right? Like I felt it last time because mainly because it gave you access to the VIP party, right?
Hmm.
Um, but this time I'm not sure. I couldn't really differentiate between the general ticket experience and the premium ticket experience.
Hmm.
And I think, their original plan with that gala and everything, I think stuff was shifted in such a way that I think they lost a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Um, Other folks that were with us were saying similar things, and it necessarily make me mad, but it did make me question what
Hmm.
did
And
it
correct me if I'm
mean to have a premium experience here versus a general experience.
correct me if I'm wrong. The price difference was still $100, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Yeah, and
And you don't feel like you got that value?
no. In fact, that was why I said I've got a post that I'm writing, and it's called what's it called? Give backers a little. I'll look it up in a second. But I want to
Your
cover
back is a
this.
little bit back.
Yeah, yeah. Give the backers a little bit of backing. The title of it is A Little Goodwill for the Backers is the name of it.
Mm.
And it covers actually 3 areas. And this one kind of was the epitome of it with CitizenCon. One of them was dealing with concierge, one was dealing with being a subscriber, and the other one was dealing with premium tickets. That those words are meaningful to people. There's something with some level of exclusivity to those words when people say it. It makes people perk up. It makes people say, "Hey, is there what more can I get for my value, my money?" Um, and in previous years, and I guess I'll write this is in my post, but in previous years, even when you bought a premium ticket series fund, it might have meant that you sat down front, that you maybe the first 12 rows was for premium folks, right? And general seating was behind that, or premiums had the balconies. There was something that distinguished it other than the color of your goodie bag and maybe one other item that was in your bag. And I think that it's important for CIG when you're going to, and this was a substantial difference in price because I think the prices before was only like $40 difference in the tickets. This was $100 difference in tickets. You remember how much it was, Fast Car? Tickets were like
Last year
180
was
or
$100 too.
no, 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 no. Go back
Well,
further.
before that was 40. Yeah, before that was 40
It
or
was
30 or
$40,
40.
right, right. So when you and back then in Austin, when we paid $40 difference, you sat down front. It was a different area, all a different line, everything. Okay. This year, to Serious Fund's point, there was nothing distinguishing any of it. There was nothing distinguishing it. People who stood in line for merchandise, who had premium, stood in line with people who were general. Now, I know that CIG tries to keep some equity so that there isn't a favoritism type of thing involved.
And
Um,
charge an equitable price.
exactly. I think that becomes the issue. Now, I still think that they can still do it. I think that there will be people when they don't buy a premium ticket, they're not going to get mad. You know what I mean? They're going to understand that these people paid a little bit extra to do such and such. Maybe that extra is premium people get to enter the event first, right? They get to come in first, right? Before general seating people do. Maybe it's because there's a special table where premium people can go because one of the big failures was merchandise. Merchandise last year was a monster for CIG. People waited and waited and waited. This year, they deliberately expanded it to make it bigger. But CIG, please, you don't have to reinvent the wheel about distributing merchandise. Go to a concert. There are 6, 8 tables selling the same stuff. Don't
I was
do
going to mention
one
that up.
table. Don't do one
Right.
table. Do 4 tables throughout the venue where the lines get reduced by 70% and you only got 20 people here 2020 instead of 100 people standing in one line. That is that.
And
Now that means more volunteers. Yes. And this is where my concern about waste and haste comes up. I think that the part of the difficulty is the growing pains for these events. These events started when I went in LA in 2016, there were only 800 of us there. There were 5,000 people this time.
mm,
This thing is exponentially growing and it's being done based on volunteers, right? We're not hiring people who are getting paid to do all this work. So each year that has also grown. So CIG is almost having to try to keep up with it. Last year, 3,000 people. This year, almost 5,000 people. So you've got to be able to manage that manpower, volunteers, and everything. It's very easy to say, yeah, make 4 more tables, but that also means 4 times the amount of people that have to work those tables, right?
and,
Mhm.
and to your point, there was like a 90-minute or 2-hour wait if you're in line to concert
Two and a
try to get
half
merchandise.
hour, two and a
Two and a
half
half
hour
hours.
late at one
And so
For,
point.
you're
for, for
missing you're
things,
missing out on presentation
yeah, for
when you
things
do
to
that
run
or
out.
lunch.
Yeah,
What
for
was that?
things to run out.
For things
Right.
to run
2 hours
out,
for.
or for people to stand in line only to find out that they could have ordered it online. Because a lot of people
Right.
waited in line not knowing that they could have ordered. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that's the other thing that's interesting too. If it's exclusive items, you understand why people want to get them. Like the pyro shirts we had last year, those were exclusive to that event. People wanted to get them, right? I get that. But when if it's something they can get on the store, then that becomes a whole nother thing. Now, physical items, it's amazing to watch how much people want physical items. They really do want. And let's talk about that serious fun because let's talk about the gift bag, right? Let's talk about some of the items
Hmm.
here that we got. I'll show a couple things. This was what you got, Fast Cart, for being a premium uh, uh, attendee. You got
Right.
a different color cloth band. That was it.
The bag is the
Well,
same color this year.
you also got a different color handle on your bag
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Not,
Okay.
and I'm not diminishing that because this is how we distinguish it, right? Um, I don't know. Those of us who's on other gaming conventions, people get like a collectible badge. There's something that stands out a little bit more. That's much more of a memorabilia piece or something like that. But mind you, I understand that these things cost too. So I don't know what the balance is that CIG can do to make these things stand out a bit more. It may not be physical items. Maybe it's the, like I said, maybe it's the fact that there's a table for people who are premier ticket buyers to get their merchandise. Or maybe it's a certain aspect of getting early entry. There were people standing in Yo-Yo and them were standing out there at 7 a.m. in the morning. Doors
Yep.
didn't were supposed to open at 9. They didn't open until almost 10. So they were out there for 3 hours. And then even when the line started moving, it still took almost another hour and a half to get the people just inside the place, you know. So now you've got people standing at the merch line who've been standing there since 7 a.m., right? Serious? Is that right? How long did you
That's
stand in that
correct.
line? Because you were one of the first ones.
I was one of the first ones in the merch line. I got through the line in an hour and 12 minutes, and behind me the line seemed interminable after I had gone through. But what became clear was that you had volunteers who were making independent decisions to
Yeah.
just do different things, right? So Captain Jones and Falcon and others who were there at the event were just blended into the general queue for merchandise because a volunteer just decided that there would no longer be a premium line,
Mm.
right? Then they come back an hour later and somebody else has made the decision to put the premium line back in place, right? So
Mhm.
it was inconsistencies like that. And as somebody who has executed events of all sizes, right? I mean, literally all sizes, right? So I've executed TED Talks all the way up to events where, we've rented the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles, right? CIG is now at the place where they've gotten big enough where I think they've got to become a less unserious about the event execution.
Yeah.
Event execution has to take the same way that we've gone from 2.0 to 3.0, now 3.0 to 4.0 and 4.0 to 1.0 in terms of the development. We've got to go to CitizenCon event 1.0,
Yeah.
right? And
So,
we can no longer be in the testing phase or beta or alpha for these events. We have to be
right.
at the 1.0 level of execution. And that means being really, really clear and really, really quality in the course event execution, where whatever you're doing, people not only feel experience that you want them to have, but they understand why you're doing what you're doing, and it fits in the context of other event experiences that they're having here in the
Mhm.
world, right?
Mhm.
So I think there's
So,
a lot of opportunities for them to examine what the event experience is like,
Mhm.
and to make sure that it's transformative in the way that they want going forward.
Mhm.
so I have a quick question. It may be a quick question, but the answer may not be quick. So this year, for CitizenCon, the normal ticket price for $250 US, and the premium ticket price was $350. Last year, it was $199 for normal admission and $299 for premium admission. They went up $50. Do you feel that the price, $50 increase was worth it?
No, I feel like last year's experience was I got more out of it last year.
Yeah, I don't think it was about the increase. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
It was the execution dynamic of what took place. Um, let's show you some things that we got. Serious, why don't we talk about that? I know you got some items. One of the things we got here was I mean, this is cool memorabilia stuff. It's you can't really see the reflection, but it's a card from Addison, Lilani Allison, the Imperator. What have you got there, Serious?
Got
That
some
was
Pins.
pins.
Oh, you got some pins. Okay, that's stuff you bought. That's stuff you bought, right?
Oh, you talking about they come in the bag?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's stuff you bought. Yeah. We got some other information. This is from Versus Studios.
This came in the bag. This is key
Yeah.
for the premium
Tell them,
tickets.
tell them what that was there.
So this is a F7C Mark II Hornet card, right? That shows an image of the F7C Mark II Hornet, but it's signed by Chris Roberts,
Oh, okay.
right? So
So what?
this is one of the premium differentiators, right?
Yeah.
For
And we
people
don't
who
know
go
how many
way
premium versus normal tickets were sold, do we?
No, we
no,
don't have a
but
count.
for people who got a premium bag who haven't seen this card, you have to go behind a journal book and pen that you get in the tin
Mm-hmm.
tin that comes. A lot of people opened the tin and saw the journal and pen and went, "Oh, I got a journal and I got a pen last year." They don't even lift it up. But if you lift it up and go behind there, you'll see this card that is one of the things that you get with the premium package. So make sure you do that, and you'll see the signature on there.
Right.
So that was nice. The tin itself and the journal and the book are premium, and they felt nice.
Yep.
There was
Yep.
also a 10% code in
Mm-hmm.
premium bags
Mm-hmm.
for merchandise. So if you could get through the line, but I heard that you can also use that online as well. I don't know
Online,
how,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
my understanding is
Yeah.
that you can.
Yeah.
Like last year, the bag they had it so you can put it on your back. I almost wear like a backpack. Was that just it was just a handle this time for the bag?
Just handles.
Yeah.
Just handle.
Just it was more of a tote. Yeah, like a tote bag that you just brought around. This is the type of
But it
thing
was
that
a nice bag.
yeah, it's a very nice bag, nice cloth bag. One of the things that I talk about in my post is about the discounts that CIG gives. Um, this is a 10% discount. This is cool. I would have loved to have seen them give the 10% discount as some other premium to the regular folks as well, and then maybe the people who were premium people got a 20% discount, something like that. I would have. I would love to see them. And it's difficult with physical items versus virtual items because that's another issue that we're going to talk about later too. But this is just for one item, 10%. People spend a lot of money to go to the UK, and I'm not talking about because they came from the North America. There are people from Germany. We had friends from Australia. There's a lot of investment, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for some people to travel and be there. And to Serious Fun's point, we're reaching a point now, and there's a uniqueness to this whole thing with the convention because who goes to a gaming convention for a game that isn't even quote unquote finished, right? All the other gaming conventions we talk to, these people have multiple franchises and things that they've got to support them, but we've been going to this thing for a game that we're looking forward to, right? Which is very unique in and of itself. um, but it's also reached that level now where the conventions don't need to be in development. The game can be in development. The convention now, we've had the models, we've done them. We know that people will come to them, or we got a good idea of how many people will come to them. And we've had an idea to test some things. This year, where they had the orgs and stuff, they reduced the amount. Last year, there were like 20, if I'm remembering correctly, that they had tables in the market area. This year, there were only like, I think it was like 10 or 12. It wasn't as big, it was a little bit smaller. And it worked for what they did. And they built it into the system, just like they did last year for the first time when they did the pyro market. This time they built it in using the cargo containers. And so it was really, really nice. The Addison Lounge, way better than the lounge from last year, which nobody visited. People hung out. So they're getting better with what they're doing. The food area, though, the food court, that's another problem. There's such a short amount of time between sessions. People don't want to miss anything. And so if you've got a 15, even if the gap is a 30-minute gap, you got 3,000 people coming out to want to get food. It's not going to happen. And don't get me wrong, it's nice because they got the monitors out there, and if you're standing in line, you can kind of hear, but people want to be in the experience. Now, there's some people that don't mind sitting out at the table eating their, Big Benny's noodles and watching it on a monitor. But a lot of people want to sit with their friends. They want to the people they just met at the event, and they want to be in that moment. And so I think that CIG, yes, you guys did a great job with having all the different food vendors and all the different things that we see in the game. But you know what? You may have to double that. You may have to double that. That food court may need to have two Big Benny's areas, not one, because the lines were just crazy. I went and got my food while events were going on because the line was just crazy during the breaks. I just didn't want to stand there all that time and get it. So there are things that they could do to make it better, and I hope that they will now. I know that God bless Ulf. He's a wonderful person. He's such a sweet guy. His hands are so full, but Ulf needs help, y'all. And I know he's got a team of people working with him, but there needs to be somebody who's over that concessions. That's what they need to be over. Seriously.
Mm.
Somebody who's over the aspect of people coming in and how there needs to be somebody. And I know the team is, but it's just, to me, the logistics dynamic of this needs to tighten up now. It needs to be,
And
it needs to make it
and
be worth the $3,000 I spent to come over there. And then I feel like I
Mm.
got a $200 experience at the event. That's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? It
right,
needs to be a premium
and
experience.
I absolutely agree with that. And some of this is just math at this point, right? For those that are executing events, a lot of this is math, right? The
Mhm.
same way that you can't build a new building and have a certain occupancy that doesn't, and that automatically will trigger the number of differently abled or handicapped parking spaces you need to have, right? And you can't have less than that, right? It's
Mhm.
just math,
Yep.
right? The same thing with the number of folks that you have, the ticket sales that you have, expected attendance is a calculation, and out of that comes the number of vendors that you need to have, merchandise and concessions. Like
Mhm.
it's just math, right? In
Yep.
order for it to be a decent experience, especially if you want to distinguish premium versus general, right?
Mhm.
It's just
Mm.
there's a certain calculation. Now they may have made that calculation and went, hey, we didn't charge enough for these tickets to be able to fund the
Mhm.
fullness of this math, right? And that's something that they may need to consider. I'm not here to advocate me paying more in anything, right? But I
Mhm.
will
Yeah, I'm
say
gonna say you got $300 for normal and $400 for premium next year. And I'm like,
well,
I don't know about
but I
that.
will say this. I will say this though. Um, to do things right costs money, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
And if they have to charge a little bit more to do it right in the fullness of doing it right, it's something
Mhm.
that they need to consider, right?
Mhm.
Now, if they're wrestling with it because they want to get the price as democratic and as low as possible, I get that too, right? But the reality is that even if you're coming from other parts of England or other parts of the
Mhm.
UK, people are spending much more than the ticket price to have this experience, right? You're not finding people. It's very seldom that you're gonna have somebody who paid the ticket price and just is in Manchester and just rolls up for the day and then goes back home around the corner,
Mhm.
right? That's not a lot of the 5,000 people that were there, right? So you've got people who are making an investment and they want to feel the value of that investment in this experience, right? And
Yeah.
to Griff's point, if you're spending $3,000, I can't imagine what Croncy and Execute and others spent coming from Australia,
Oh
Mhm.
my
right?
God.
To come in and have an experience that isn't quite up to snuff for whatever reason or set of reasons, that's not that doesn't feel as good as it could, right?
Mhm.
Going forward. So
Yeah.
there's a lot for them to think about, and to Griff's point, I do believe that there's an opportunity for CIG to just really have somebody who just delivers on events, right? To really give them the expert based analysis that goes, listen, this is sort of where this needs to be
Mhm.
in order for it to be reflective of the brand and give you the brand equity that you want in both CIG and in Star Citizen. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna get ready to wrap this up. There's a couple more items we want to talk about. They gave us a little civilian. I know you can't see a civilian defense patch that you could patch
yeah,
onto something, and we also got a commemorative coin, a actually very nice weighty coin that had 4,400 of these coins were cut. And each one was uniquely numbered, and they actually did raffles based upon whatever number you had. And this was another situation. People got these and were so concerned about them that they took them back to their hotel rooms because they didn't want anything to happen to them. Then when they came back, they're like, "Take out your coins. We're going to do a raffle." And people are like, "What? What the frick? My coins back in my hotel room." We didn't know. Just
and
simple things like
and and
that.
and then,
People
and then later on in the day they said, "Oh, you can come back tomorrow with the coin." Yeah,
exactly,
but
exactly.
people were running back to the hotel rooms that
They were.
that day because they didn't know.
They were. People would have gladly have kept their coin in their pocket and left their thing if they had known. So these are just the little bitty small things. So this is what I want to say, CIG. First of all, we appreciate you. We love you. We had a great time. You guys did a great job. Um, at this
because
point,
community was still community.
oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
We're just giving. We're hopefully giving those insights that we feel that will make just things better. just takes it to the next level. And that's what we would love to see. I'm looking forward to seeing and attending more of these events, and I definitely hope that more backers will have an opportunity. We tell people this all the time. And I know it sounds cliche. If you've never been to one, you need to try to go to one. Just like we tell people about going to a bar citizen. But if you can go next year, hopefully they'll be over here in North America. And if they are, my vote is for Montreal. Um, been to Austin plenty of times, been there, done that. I would love to give some love up to Montreal, but we'll have to see where they go. But we'll see what happens with that. But CIG, this thing has grown. You guys have done a great job. And we know it's a lot of work. We saw how much hustling there was all weekend. To Disco Lando, you are such a cool person. Disco truly, truly, truly was injured and was hurt physically during the convention on the very first day. And he pushed through the entire weekend to the point where he could have very easily passed on giving the tour to someone else. But he literally walked that studio and walked every group through. There must have been at least 8 different groups that he
Hmm.
spent at least 30 to 45 minutes with each on that leg that was injured. And so to him, we want to say, like we've told Tyler
Thank
and
you.
everybody else, not only thank you, take care of yourselves. We want you guys to be around.
Hmm.
We appreciate all the work that you guys do. And hopefully each year we'll just get better and better. That's what we're looking forward
And
to.
and, and I'm sorry I wasn't there, Disco, because otherwise I would have let you borrow my card, but I wasn't able to
This would have been
attend.
one time he probably would have used it. He probably would have. He probably would have. Okay, well, listen, folks, thank you guys for joining us. We're going to wrap this up. As always, to my co-producers, Fast Cart and Serious Fun, thank you guys for all your input and what you shared. To our sponsors and our donors, thank you guys so much for what you do to help us do this every month. Hope you guys enjoy the conversation. We're at an hour. These things always end up being about an hour. Well, actually, it's more than an hour. Oh my God, you got a pico. Uh, so, um, excuse me. We're going to sign off. As always, you guys take care of yourself. Fast Cart, it's on you.
Yeesh.
Love.
And soul.
See you guys later. Take care.